Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
I'm happy to see you.
Yeah, yeah, you as well.
Yeah, it looks like you're somewhere warm. Are you somewhere warm?
Kind of. I'm in New York, but I'm inside, so it's all right. It's gotten pretty warm. I think the general global warming has made the city very warm in the spring. But yeah, I'm just in New York. What about you?
I'm up in Montreal.
What's the weather like right now?
It's a bit grey today, but we're promised good weather like coming up. So hopefully it'll be nice
Yeah.
when you arrive.
Yeah, yeah. I think I went to Montreal once. Like my uncle lives in Toronto, so I've been there a lot, and I went to Quebec a bunch when I was like in high school.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, I haven't really spent much time in Montreal, so
This
this
is
is
your first Montreal show.
it's my first Canada shows. Yeah, I've never
Oh,
played like outside of the US in North America. So yeah,
amazing. Well, congratulations.
thank you. Thank you.
You're going to be here on the 4th. You're going to be playing Bar Ritz. I've seen a lot of good shows at Bar Ritz. It's quite
Oh, really?
yeah, it's quite a popular venue here in Montreal. So
Yeah.
it's nice and intimate. And I know
Yeah.
that soon you're going to be doing some not so intimate shows. So it's an
Yeah.
exciting time, right?
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. Like I love the intimate shows and it's a nice way to like ease into getting to know a place, honestly. Like it's actually really interesting because I really love traveling and playing shows is actually the best way to get to know a city, weirdly. Like I've traveled around the US a bit, but like playing shows it's just a very intimate experience and you get to know like the taste of a city or like the flavor of what it's like playing shows, which I guess you would understand that more rather than being like a tourist or just someone like walking around or just visiting. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah. Well, I'm from the UK. I've lived in Montreal 8 years now. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, I can definitely say it's a very cool city if you have time like around the show to actually explore and look around. It's a cool spot. And people here love their music.
Oh
So
really?
so yeah, so hopefully you'll get a good crowd. We've had quite a few performers play in Montreal who say, maybe they say this at every date, but I kind of feel it's a bit more authentic. The Montreal crowds are a little bit special. So hopefully
Yeah.
you'll feel that vibe.
Yeah, I'm very excited. No, it's very interesting. Like I remember when we played in like Chicago for the first time, people were all saying like Chicago crowds are so energetic and like there's so much that they give you, and I didn't really realize that until we played. So that's very nice to hear. I'm very excited.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about your journey because everything still feels very new, but it feels like it's kind of snowballing at quite a good rate. So,
Mhm.
so where did music start for you?
Ooh, yeah, it does, everything does feel really new. I think it's because we've, especially with touring, like we've really haven't had the chance to like be newcomers to a place yet. So there's so many, I don't know, sort of boundaries to push with where we play. But um music for me, it really began when I was really young. I was like a classical musician for my entire life. Like that was who I was through and through. And I started piano when I was maybe like 4 years old. So I'm absolutely like an instrumentalist at heart, like before everything else. And I just grew up like playing piano and playing in orchestras, and I loved it so much. Um, and I think when I was maybe about 10 or 12, I wanted to just venture out into guitar. And I loved pop music as a kid. Like I was always listening to the top 40. Um, and yeah, I just started and I started singing. I was really very, very nervous and shy. Even though I've been performing, for my whole life, in classical music. And I started singing and writing and just wanting to do more and more and then wanting to produce. It's just I love being like a newcomer to things. Like I love being a beginner at things, and I think I wanted to chase that in music. And I was always wanting to learn a new instrument or always wanting to learn a new craft or something. And I think it was very natural that I would just want to start writing or start singing and um, kind of branching away from where I began.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you were a bit nervous about singing. Can you remember the first time you performed like to anybody when you were
Oh
singing?
my God, yeah. I used to live in Singapore when I was younger, and I lived there for about 5 years, and I started singing while I was there. And there was this, uh, it's like an after school club um, that did small performances around school. And I think one of the first times I ever really sang, it was maybe in front of 20 people in a very big theater, but just a very small audience. And I did something a cappella. It wasn't really for anything, like it wasn't for a show or a competition. I don't really remember what it was for. But I just remember being like stood there and I was just so overwhelmed. And it was so silly to not play an instrument at the same time. Like I was just kind of like making a beat with my hands and just singing. And it was really fun. And I sang with this other girl. I don't know if that was the first time, but that was definitely one of the first times ever that I sang in front of people. And then after that, it was um, probably in high school, like I was in an a cappella group, but that wasn't really solo. So a lot of the fear subsides when you're with other people. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was very nerve-wracking.
So how did you end up singing a cappella after learning multiple instruments?
It was just a really big thing at my high school. Like it was a very sort of coveted thing to do. Like it was just very exciting. And I had been singing in middle school and I was just warming up to it. And I didn't really have vocal training, but I wanted to sing with a group of people. So the options were like sing pop music with a bunch of other really cool girls, or like gospel choir, or just normal choir. And I was like, I don't think I want to do those two.
Mhm.
Although I did join the gospel choir like for 1 year and I actually had so much fun. Um, it was great. But yeah, it was just sort of a natural option, just to be surrounded by other like young girls and wanting to explore singing and covering songs. That was like my first entry point into singing consistently, I guess.
Yeah. And when did you perform your own material for the first time?
That really wasn't until I got to college. Like I was learning how to write and figuring out what I wanted to talk about in high school. And I think my first year of college, I have very sweet memories with this place, but um, there's a chapel on my college campus. And in the basement of the chapel, they would always do these little coffee house events. So they would bring in musicians from either around New York or they would be students. And they would do these like 3 nights a week. And they had an open mic night one night because I couldn't get booked or anything because it's not like I had a full set to play. I barely had any
Yeah.
music. Or I wasn't just gonna like cover God knows what for 30 minutes. And they had an open mic night, and a friend of mine was gonna do it. She kind of was like, why don't you also do it? Like, why don't you come? And I was like, but I don't have anything to sing. And so like a week before, I was like, okay, I'm gonna write a song for this open mic night. And I wrote it really fast and I really liked it. And that was the first time I played. And it was like a room of 40, 50 people packed in this like brick wall coffee house. I would go back there to play some sets actually, like a year or two later. Um, but that was my first time like ever performing any of my own material.
Yeah. Is that song still in your repertoire?
It is actually. It was like the first song that I released. It was called Wine Lips. It's honestly not my best work. I can say that now. I don't really listen to it anymore, but it has like it's a sweet memory. It's a pin during a point of time where I was just starting. So I'm very grateful for it still.
Yeah. So growing up with classical music and then kind of becoming a pop fan,
hmm
at what point did you decide what your sound was going to be?
I I'm not really sure if there was ever a moment in time where I was like, this is the thing that I should be. I think it was very natural that classical music would kind of work its way into the music I was writing. Because I was just very naturally drawn to, I would just start writing at the piano, or things that I would want to add or embellish would usually be strings, because that was what I was good at and that's what I knew. Um, and I think after a while, this sound kind of came about because there was this repetition of me just constantly wanting to, bring that kind of ethereal, sliding, very harmonic, very rich sound to my music. And I think it kind of just it made sense and it kind of chose itself because that was the past sort of life that I was bringing into writing. Um, and I don't know. So I don't know if there was really a moment when that happened or I chose that because I'm also like I'm very averse to like prescribing things for myself or telling myself like what the music should sound like. So I'm a very firm believer like that the idea just kind of came about or it just happened and I think it made a lot of sense given I don't know all of the other instruments I was playing and things I was doing. So
Okay, so what's your process to get to a song? Like, are you playing multiple instruments on the songs as well as singing and writing and all the, or is it all you?
yeah, for the most part it is. It's either like I'll do the drum programming or I'll play synths or um, maybe violins or guitars. For the most part, it's me. The I think the one other or two other musicians I've had are maybe like a bassist or a drummer. Um, and that was for two songs. But yeah, the process is really fun. I love creating alone in a space. And I'll usually just start at the piano or the guitar, something very simple. And I think the sonic world will just very slowly expand, which is very fun.
When you play live, which you're about to start playing live now
Hmm.
again, um, how does that work? Considering how much you've contributed to the actual recordings,
Yeah,
does it
yeah.
translate to a live environment?
It would be crazy if I was playing like every
Yeah.
single instrument. Like, although some musicians do that. Like I've seen a lot of musicians like use like looping pedals or whatnot, and they are very successful in that. I don't know if I could do that, but yeah, I play with a full band. So I play with like a guitarist, a synth player, and then a drummer. And I think a lot of the sounds either we'll try to recreate. So during our rehearsals, where like we'll go through them and like try to get as close as possible to the record, or we'll just include them on the tracks that we play along to. But it's really fun. Like, honestly, playing live is such a weird endeavor because it's not going to sound exactly like the recording, but it's really fun to present to people versions of songs that don't exist, and to really manipulate and change the textures or the way things feel. I feel like that's what makes a live show just more special than you could listen to my music for an hour on end, for free. But it's way more fun to just, I don't know, be given, I guess, something that you've never heard before. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very fun part of the process.
Yeah, and that's the whole reason we go to shows is to get something that's unique in the moment rather than
Yeah,
something that we can listen to again and again. It's going to sound the same every time.
totally.
That's the whole point. I want to ask you about your musical listening, what you've been listening to. So, what's the first album that kind of made you get excited about music?
Oh my God. The first album that made me get excited about music. That is such a good question. Oh God. I think, I
Because
mean,
most people hear it like in the background and in coffee shops and on the radio, but there's usually one time where they're like, oh, okay, this is something different. This means more to me.
yeah. I think I think when I was younger, my parents played a lot of cassettes when I was growing up. And I was very surrounded by classical music. So like the first pieces of music that I heard that I really felt something to were all like instrumental music. Um, I was obsessed with like romantic composers growing up, and that music really made me feel things that I could not describe at all. And I think the fact that there were no words also like aided that as well. And a lot of people have referenced that as like just something that really tugs at you and you can't explain why. It's very instinctual and a lot of music by like I loved this French composer Chopin when I was growing up. Like, oh my gosh, like I felt so like alive listening to that music. But I think the first albums that um really, really moved me. I listened to like a lot of ABBA and Fleetwood Mac growing up. And I think when I got older and I realized what they were talking about and understood the language that was like the things that were very subtle that were really being said, or the unsaid things that were there in the music, those were the first times I was like, oh my God, like what the hell is this? I listened to a lot of like really beautiful vocal jazz when I was in high school. I felt that feeling a lot when I listened to like Sarah Vaughan or like I had this one album by Julie London that I loved, and that kind of very expressive jazz, really rich vocal songs that really brought it out of me. And yeah, I think when I was in college, like I started just really like listening to more things that I wouldn't have engaged with when I was younger. But most recently, the Cocteau Twins are like an artist that I just can't get enough of. Like everything they do is just ridiculous, and it kind of pisses me off that they have like such a good discography. Um, yeah, I love them right now, but definitely like classical jazz, and then like I loved ABBA growing up too. That definitely inspired me a lot.
Yeah, and what you're talking about, like that's quite an eclectic mix. What you're talking about, especially from Chopin to ABBA and Fleetwood Mac and all these things
Yeah,
in between. And
yeah.
I know that you're a big fan of Lord as well. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so these are all
absolutely.
quite eclectic, but it feels like I can hear elements of all those things in your music, which, and I
Oh,
think that's
thank
what makes
you.
your music so unique, and it's very rich and ethereal. A lot of your music, and very personal as
Thank you.
well. So I think that's really good that you draw in from so many different avenues, and then creating something that's very uniquely you. So
Yeah, thank
you
you.
mentioned college earlier. Is there an album or a band or anybody that particularly reminds you of those years? And I know you're still studying right now.
Oh, I graduated, so I'm like
Oh,
technically done. Yeah.
oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, definitely like Cocteau Twins is there. I think like when I'm trying to remember, like I think I really fell into like I have a lot of friends who like grew up listening to Lana Del Rey, or like friends that were like, like 13 and like loving Lana Del Rey, and you can kind of tell that they've been inspired or like affected by Lana Del Rey's early music based on like the person they are now.
Right.
But I really like fell into her discography in college, um, as well as like getting into a lot more indie rock. Like I was really I think when I was growing up, like I because I was a very much like a goody two shoes, so I listened to a lot of music that reflected that, like classical music or like ABBA. Like this is not like I love ABBA, but they're not like like I don't know,
They're
like
not too
cutting the
rebellious.
edge, the
Yeah.
yeah the frontier of like edginess and so I think in college like I mean, people like push the bounds of their identities when they're in college. You understand a lot more about yourself. And I was listening to like just a lot more, I don't know, music that was a bit rougher around the edges, and it was way more exciting, I think. Um, but I'm thinking of like Lana Del Rey, speaking about like rough around the edges, it's not really it. Or like I was introduced to like Sasami when I was in college, and then I saw her live like last year in Brooklyn, and my mind was blown. I think I had fully sobbed during that concert. She played in Brooklyn outdoors, and it just started pouring rain right in the middle of like my favorite song of hers, and it was just a magical, magical moment. Yeah, it was crazy, but
So so far we have some EPs and some singles. Is there any sign of an album?
I hope so. Um,
Are you beginning to even think about that yet?
no, honestly, I really like kind of compartmentalizing my brain into what's happening at the moment.
Okay.
I've definitely been thinking about what's next and trying to understand and feel it out, but I feel like I don't know until I know. I don't know until the things happened, and I'm very excited about like the EP that's gonna come out and the ones that have. But I am ready for something a little bit longer than like 20 minutes, but I'm just not sure what that is yet. But
Okay, so you mentioned the EP, that's Ascension, comes out in June.
Hmm.
just after you're here, because I think it's like the Friday after you're going to be in Montreal, the EP comes out.
Yeah.
So, out of all your discography, if somebody had never heard your music yet, is there one song that you would want them to start with?
Gosh, I would say the singles that we've been releasing are like genuinely some of my favorite songs I've made to date. So I would either suggest like Oh No Darling or Love God, just because like I love those songs. I've been going back and listening to them, and they're some of my favorites. So I would probably choose those.
Okay, nice. So we got this little mini tour, and then tell me about what the rest of the year looks like for you.
Yeah, I'm playing a bunch of festivals, which is going to be really exciting over the summer. Um, I'm like very new to festivals. I've really only done like a few last year, and they're just such a different beast than playing live shows. So we're doing one in Chicago and New York and Atlanta, which I'm really excited about. I also really loved those cities when I played like my solo shows there. So I'm very excited to return
Yeah.
um, for festival season.
We should mention that you're not just playing festivals in Chicago. You're playing Lollapalooza, which is a legendary festival, and Governor's Ball, right? Which not many people
Yeah.
make it onto that bill. That's a big deal.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel really lucky. I'm just really excited to see other people play as well. Like it's
You
very
just
rare
you're just
that
there for the free ticket.
yeah, I'm gonna play a really shit show and then I'm gonna go see like Kendrick Lamar go play. Yeah, no, but I'm genuinely I'm very stoked, and it's obviously like it's a big privilege to like see my name in the print on the bill. Um, but I'm just excited. Like I don't know. I never know what to expect from festivals because I never really went to them growing up, or I don't have many experiences with them. So I'm always asking people like, what did you have fun here? Like, what did you go? How do you do this? So yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be very fun. It's gonna be really
Yeah,
fun.
for sure. And it's a perfect way to make new fans. So I wish you all the best with that. And
Yeah,
I wish you all the best with everything that's coming up. It sounds like an exciting time for you. And we
thank
should see
you.
you in Montreal on the 4th of June.
Yeah, I can't wait. Thank you so much.
No, darling, there she